You're listening to ChainLeak, the crypto news podcast with your host, Joshua Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.
Welcome to the ChainLeak podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Roomsberg. Today's episode is about StorX Network, DePIN versus Big Tech. Today's guest, Murphy John. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Hey, hi, Joshua. Nice to be here again on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So StorX is on a mission to disrupt Web 2 legacy cloud infrastructure.
That's right.
What do you feel is the biggest implication of having decentralized storage?
The biggest implication is having the power distributed. That way, you're not giving the power of your data to any central party to hold ransom against you. So you're distributing the power. Everybody, it's like democratizing the power that is given to you. So you own the data rights. You own who looks at your data. You own whom you feed the data, whom you give your data access to. So it's like you controlling your data completely with your own will, rather than you depending upon somebody else and depending upon his will to for him or a mercy on him to access the data to third party.
Now, when you look at a legacy network and you have storage options such as Google or Amazon cloud infrastructure, how does a decentralized solution differ from what people normally use?
It's actually the beauty of the architecture and the blockchain technology. So if you look at the architecture, whereby what we exactly do is, rather than storing your data as an open data in a single specific server, what we do is whenever the user is using StorX for storing her data, the moment he goes to storx.com and uploads the data is first encrypted at the source with his own personal key phrase. That means you as individual only own the key phrase. Nobody else in the entire chain of data can ever access your data. That means your data is completely private, completely secure, and you have complete right over your data. That's like absolute authority over your data. So that's the fundamental difference where we actually different from the other guys. It's only because of the advent of the internet blockchain technology, which people started adopting it. This technology could be made possible.
When you look at the legacy solutions such as Google, and you think about a single point of failure, if the Google servers were ever infected and your data was on that server, what types of vulnerabilities does that type of system have versus a decentralized system?
See, most the common all these big tech companies or all big tech giants run on the same infrastructure. Even though they're distributed, they have different locations. They're all running in the same kind of infrastructure, same kind of technology. Everything's kind of different. So when you're using this big text to store your data, the common mindset or the common thought that we have is, I'm a very small guy and I would never be infected with any virus. But the problem is the guy who's trying to attack it, he only has to attack it and win it once, and he gets access to the complete data set. It's for the entire user base. He doesn't know you are a big or a small or any tech firm. He gets an access and he gets to access all the data. He gets to encrypt all the data. He gets to run the ransom virus and all over the data. So this is the big mindset shift that we need to have, that the common SMEs or individual who are storing the data with this big tech, they feel that, I'm a very small company and why should someone come and infect me with ransomware virus? But that's not true actually, because all this big tech run on the same platform, they run on the same network, they run on the same security setup. The bad actors just need to get an access to one of the infrastructure, and he can get access to the entire infrastructure network that are with the spread worldwide. So that's the big difference. But if you're using a decentralized technology, what happens is there are 2,500 nodes which are running. In our case, we have around 2,500 node operators who are running worldwide. They have their own unique system. They are on their individual system. They're set up on their own infrastructure, or they are set up in the IDC, which is totally different. They are running across different operating system, different security levels. So it's like including into 2,500 system rather than doing one system and you're infecting with the one big setup.
That was another thing I was just thinking about when you said that was, if a vulnerability was possible on a Google server and a single file from one business was infected, would they be able to then infect other files on that same Google server, even if the businesses are not connected?
So it depends. It really depends on the kind of attack that the attacker is doing. So it can be depending on the kind of attacker's intelligence. He can rope into either one of the systems, or he can access the complete server system. So there are different types of attacks that has been happening over the period of time. You must be well aware of it. Some are just limited to certain areas, but some do really infiltrate to all the other parts, where they go and infect all the others, all the other users who are sitting on the system. They are able to breach the security and go to the other data as well. So that's just this kind of technology and breaching depend upon the level of intelligence that the bad actor has.
Yeah, no, that's crazy to think about. If you're a business owner and you have contracts or classified information that you don't want going out to competitors or other people in your sector, if you have valuable information, or even if you're building a new type of device and you have them type of files of patents that may not be filed yet, or certain business information that you didn't want a third party to obtain, you have vulnerabilities when you stick with a centralized server. And that's crazy to think about. Some of these people are trying to infect every business on that server. So if they're able to do that one time, that's all they need is one shot.
Yeah.
And they could take over all of your business files, any potential patents you have, and all of that information could go to these third parties that are intruding on the infrastructure.
That's
so
correct.
with a decentralized solution, break that down for any of our listeners who are business owners who might want to know how StorX and decentralized infrastructure would be more secure to their business documents.
So the beauty of decentralized or any DePIN project is you're using multiple resources, right? You're using infrastructure from multiple parties. These multiple parties might be spread worldwide, anywhere in the world, and that's bringing together for a common cause. So in case of StorX, I can give you an example of StorX, how we are doing it differently. So what we do is exactly we have a community of around 2,500 node operators who are spread worldwide. So we have some node operators who are based in Australia, some node operators who are based in UK, some operators are based in Germany, some are in Africa, some are in India. So there are different parts of the globe, each running on different data centers, each running their own security protocols, each running their own OS level versioning and stuff like that. So what happens is whenever you're going to through a decentralized infrastructure like StorX, what we do is we upload the data and we split it, we replicate the data for protection and security, and then we distribute worldwide. So what happens is your data as such is not residing as a single data point. It is just a fragment of your data that is already encrypted with your own passphrase. So some bad actors would be able to access to, suppose he gets in access to any of the infrastructure which is residing. So what happens is he'll never be able to access the other part of information because that is critically stored securely on the blockchain. He will never be able to access that. So at one point of time, if some of these node operators go down, or it's infected, or it's able to compromise on one node operator or certain node operator, there's still major part of the data which is still running secured far way away from this guy. So that's how the protection comes in. So with this, what happens is every business, it's not only business, it's even individual information that is there that is very critical. They want it to be secured from the other people. They don't want anybody else to snoop into the data. Such kind of data can really find very well and can be stored really very securely using decentralized cloud storage.
Okay. Now, I got to slow you down there. You said so much information and we got to run through it. So with the StorX network specifically, if you upload a file to the StorX network, it's broken down into shards that are spread across the network, right?
Yeah. So what exactly we do is whenever the user goes to StorX platform for storing the data, first we log the file with user's unique key phrase. That's very unique to him. Then the encrypted file is uploaded to the network, where it gets broken down into small fragments, and then we replicate those fragments into multiple pieces, like we create 2 or 3 copies, so that it's really redundant, and then we spread it across to the network of 2500 nodes. So depending upon the file size, the system decide like how many fragments should it be and how many replicated copies should be made. So that ensures that your data is really very private, very secure, and redundant across multiple geographies.
Okay. Now, another way to break that down is your file is never stored in one place as a whole. So if there ever was an intruder on any singular node on the StorX network, there's not really a vulnerability because that individual node doesn't have the full file.
That's
so
correct.
Even if a file or a node was compromised, the intruder wouldn't be able to retrieve the full file. If it was a PDF, they wouldn't have the whole PDF. They couldn't open it.
Correct.
If it was a video file, they would not have that full video file. If it was documentation for a book, if you're writing a autobiography, they would not have that documentation as a 200-page book that you're writing. They would only have 2 or 3 pages, and it wouldn't be as a page. It would be fragments of the 250 pages, right?
That's right. And that too would be encrypted with user's unique passphrase, because unless you have the passphrase, you cannot open it.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the way files are stored on a centralized server, what does that look like versus the way we just described for StorX?
So it's depend upon the various technologies that the users is using, but depending upon, if you see, majority of the file is just taken up from the users as a single source of file and just kept in one specific server. If you want to go in for something like a deduplication, it will take your files and replicate it across multiple geographies. So it's the same thing that is across with multiple of the majority of the ISPs which are currently in the market, majority of the monopolistic power. With the same copy, and most of the users are going in with the same technology, thinking that they're just secure. So it's like just taking a file from you and storing it in one of the cupboards, feeling that nobody will go and access it.
Do you feel the StorX network is more for business-centric uses or end users in retail?
So we have use cases across all of them. So currently, all our user base is spread across users, individual users who are trying to protect their files. But now we've created more of business case. So last year when we were talking about the storage, same thing. We were more focused on file storage, but now we've pivoted to a lot of other things. Now we coming up with the Gmail. Google Workspace backup, where we can back up the whole Gmail, Google Workspace for users. So you can back up your emails, you can back up your photographs, you can back up your documents, such things. We coming up. We already integrated with Kubernetes, so you can back up your whole Kubernetes workload using our systems. So we work with certain open source, and we are able to provide you a very granular level of backup retrieval system. So what happens is we started with something like a file storage, but we moved on to much more complex workloads like mail services, container services. So, and we'll keep on adding a lot of integration. So currently we have around 40 plus integrations that we are already live with on our website, but we're soon going to be with much more workloads which are available. So we will be able to offer you a finer and granular level storage and backup services for your SaaS data, for your container data, for your server snapshot. So we'll be moving beyond this kind of thing. And all these use cases are specifically designed for business cases. So where it was individual, it was just like files, data, videos, photograph storage, but we pivoted and gone much more ahead at that. And these all cases are around business use cases.
Okay. Another thing I was thinking about earlier is for the video storage aspect, could you see something like a Web3 YouTube competitor in storing all of those type of video files on a decentralized network like StorX?
So we are very specifically focused towards storage use cases. We are not something like a player-based thing. So YouTube is something where you store and play your data. So we are just focused on the storage layer part of it, and we want to remain focused on this core competency that we have.
Okay, so there's no future outlook for streaming services
As of now, we don't
on the
have
StorX network.
As of now, we don't have any use cases around streaming services, but we do have use cases where we're securely storing files that are video files, which requires a storage, or very huge video files, which require secure storage. So we are like video cams, CC cam storage. We're kind of storing them securely on our network.
Another angle would be social media photography. Have you guys thought about anything like that, to where a active website with lots of traffic would store their data on StorX?
So we do have an option where we are giving developers an option. We have an S3 compatible gateway. So any users who has like a high traffic website wants to store certain data securely, we have an option to do that. So we are publishing like just like an extension of Amazon S3. You can just store in your files and securely store in a specific location. And whenever that is requested, it can just throw you back the images to the website user. So it could be for users for storing either images, either videos, or any other content.
With the social media aspect of it, I'm thinking a Web3 Instagram competitor. If they were able to store those type of photos on StorX, is that possible?
So we can store photographs and provide access to it. So we just want to be clear that we are a storage layer specifically. So we just want to be a storage layer focused on providing high security storage for users.
Okay. So more like a Google Drive solution?
It would be more like a Google Drive solution or a backup service provider, which provides you storage with high level of security.
If you consider StorX a Google Drive competitor, have you reached out to any of these Web3 mobile phone manufacturers to have integration into their devices? I think that'd be a real unique option as well.
No, as of now, we don't have that kind of. And we do work with Web3 companies. We're working with Web3 companies who are into NFT storages, NFT businesses, and all. So we do provide them secure storage layer on our project. We have some DeFi clients who are storing their data with us. So we work as a storage layer for all these projects.
Are any developers on XDC building a physical mobile phone device?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay, because that ties into the next question. If there was a project building a mobile phone that integrates the XDC network, I think that mobile phone storage solution would make more sense. I know there are a couple other mobile phone manufacturers that are in Web3 building on top of, say, Solana or on top of Binance Smart Chain.
It could be an interesting use case to look at.
Because I'm thinking about on my Samsung device, I have Google Cloud and Samsung Cloud that I can tie into with my data on my mobile device. But when we're thinking Web3 and decentralized solutions, that's where the mobile phone aspect in Web3 and DePIN, it all ties together for that specific use case. So that's something definitely for you guys to look forward to in the future. Whenever a developer comes to the table with a mobile phone device using XDC network.
Sure, that would be an interesting case to look into, and we would always be interested to collaborate to any such projects. Not only mobile phones, but any other devices, any other third-party applications that want to integrate storage in a very big and a secure layer. We would be happy to talk into them across any projects.
Last year when we spoke, you guys were focused on building out the storage aspect of the network. Do you feel you've reached a point where you could onboard a $100 million company at this point?
Yes, we do. We are too confident. We have rolled out a mainnet. We're very successfully working with our users. So we do have a complete infrastructure set up right now to onboard any kind of application, any kind of devices that need storage. So right now we're onto it. So it's like when we were talking last year, we were just on the crux of completing our mainnet thing, and we're already on with the mainnet for the past 4 months now.
Okay, great. Now, when it comes to accessing the information inside your StorX storage, is it a single entry, or can you add multiple levels from your business, your executives, etc.? Are they able to access that data, or is it a single point of entry?
Right now it is a single level of entry that we have, but we do have other entry levels. Like we have a user who can access it from the browser using a login and password, and we do have API based access. So it's kind of developer access who can give access to the multiple users through his API. So it's like divided between the end users as well as the developer access, and depending upon how the developer wants, he can create levels on inside.
That's cool. That's really cool. Now, is that open sourced as well?
Yes, it's a complete open source, 100% open source project.
Okay. Now, for a developer who wants to use this and pull from their data that they're storing on StorX, what is the cost for them API pulls? How does that work? And is it a monthly or a pull per or pay per pull?
No.
How does that work?
So for developers also, we have a very generous package. He can use our APIs. We already have our APIs published on the website. He can use APIs, and it's not API based access. It's completely the storage that he's going to use. So unlimited number of API access. It's only the storage that he's going to go, but which we are going to charge. And something good for them is like we start with a 2 GB package, but we're also offering anonymous discount for users and developers who want to onboard some interesting projects to it. So depending upon how the project is, we do offer discounts, incentives, rewards based on what exactly his project is going on. So developers can get in touch with us. We'll be really happy to talk to us case-to-case basis that way.
Are there any specific use cases that you have on the top of your mind that are building on top of StorX right now?
Sure. That's a very interesting question. So we do have projects which are building on top of StorX. Right now we have a couple of them which are under NDA, but I'll share about one which is a very interesting use case. There's an IT company based out of Canada who's building the entire infrastructure of storage based on StorX. They're not going in for any regular cloud. They're not going for any traditional cloud providers. They're using the complete infrastructure based on StorX. So it's going to be a very interesting project to look out for, because we have anticipated that they're going to at least save 60 to 70% of the storage cost which they are going to give. They were supposed to project and give it to this, and because of the discount, they're able to offer this passed on this discount to the individual customers who can use the services for almost like free. So it's a win-win for both of them. Also, we're working with a very big medical tech company in India. So we're going to store a lot of medical data specifically inside India using storage technology. So that's also an interesting, these are the two interesting projects which are not under NDA, but we are working with.
Now, users can also host their own nodes on top of the StorX network. Let's circle back on that a minute and talk about the requirements, both on-chain and hardware requirements.
So we have a very specific user requirement that is that's already published on the website. He needs to follow certain parameters for the hardware, and he has a certain staking requirement. So he brings in the hardware that's already specified on the website, and he puts in a little amount as staking deposits, and then he can right away go and start earning the rewards from the first month. Right now, we're giving standard rewards to everybody. It's not based on the usage, and it's standard for everyone. So, and we've already had 2,500 node operators which are there from day one when we started. So they are really pillars of our strength and a core backbone of the network.
Okay. Now, as far as the requirements go, do you guys have any slashing on the network? And what does that look like when you get slashed? Do you lose a part of your stake? Do you get kicked out of the network? And what would get you kicked out of the network?
That's also an interesting question. So we do have certain quality parameters which we adhere to be a network. So the network requirement is this: the node which operates on StorX network has to be on every time. They cannot go down. And once they start going down, we send them warning. If they go down below a certain threshold level, we just deactivate them for a certain time. They still have an option to come back, gain the quality parameters, and start earning again. So this is the only quality parameters that we have. We don't kick out any storage network as such, but we do require them to maintain the quality parameters. That is, like, they need to maintain the hardware, they need to maintain the connectivity, they need to maintain the bandwidth requirements, and be online 24/7. And if they don't adhere to it, we send them the initial warning, and then they're just put as bad notes, which doesn't receive any rewards and which doesn't receive any new storage packets also for a certain point of time. If they still, if during this warning period they maintain their quality parameters, they are brought back to the network. There is no slashing of the nodes. There is no burning of the tokens, taking nodes that they have. It's just a what do you say? It is a warning system that we want them to maintain their quality parameters. That's it. If they go beyond, if they resign, or they do an ultimate resign without informing us, then there is a slashing of reward. Otherwise, we do want them to be a part of the community.
Okay. Now, a thing I was just thinking about is, would you guys recommend a office computer with high drivers and RAM and CPU and that kind of stuff? Or would you have the end user in some,
Data
what
center.
are they called?
Data center.
Yeah, remote computers and data centers.
Yeah. So
which would you guys recommend?
So we would specifically recommend people going in for data center, because data center offers a certain minimum quality of standards, certain number of hours, the certain number of bandwidth requirements and online requirements. So they adhere to certain security parameters. So we really prefer people keeping their nodes on the data centers and providing the services.
Okay. So it's easier for the network to maintain a balance.
That's right.
When you're using a data center versus a home personal computer or office solution.
That's right.
You would have 100% uptime. You would pay a fee to access that data center and run your own phantom of your computer, but that cost, whether it's $11, $16, $20 a month, would be offset by your rewards from the network, correct?
That's right. That's correct. So users are able to onset their rewards and get handsome returns as of now.
Okay. Now, what do you think is an upcoming solution that could happen in the future using StorX's open source coding?
So we, as I told you, we've pivoted into a lot of new things. We've pivoted into workload security, whereby we're taking backups of Google Drive, Gmail, clouds, container loads. So people can really, now we actually relate to a lot of backup areas. So we want to be core partners for users to back up their data, because the way in which backup is treated is really not well. So if you're planning to do any backups, you can look at StorX. We have a lot of integrations. We have like 40 plus integrations which are already there up and now. You can work with all the softwares, back up your data. You can take snapshots of your computer. You can take snapshots of your mobile. You can take snapshots of your database. So many use cases. So we have all these use cases which are live right now.
With the mobile phone aspect for backing up,
yeah,
is there a option to do that from your browser? That might be an alternative solution to the mobile phone Web3 aspect I was speaking about earlier.
So it right now we don't have any mobile options as such, but we can work with open source software and take the backup. So see, the open source software takes care of the entire system, and we back it up securely on our system. So it can right now, but we can have it in the future, but right now it's not.
Okay, because that's the thing I'm thinking. You can go to, I don't know if it's Google.Drive or something like that, and access your Google Drive from the web browser. If you could do that in a decentralized manner where you go to StorX.network and you can access your files there and log in with your encryption key, or what's the new keys that they have for exchanges and mobile phones?
So
Do you know what I'm talking about?
we do have options for users to go to StorX.
Passkey is what I'm talking about. The passkeys. Could you tie a passkey into the StorX solution?
So passkey is already integrated into the StorX solution right now. So users can go online and can back up their entire mobile phones. Like they can get in the entire photographs on Google. They can get in the entire emails on the Google. They can get the Google Docs right now. So this is soon to be launched option, which is already ready for launch. So with that option, users will be able to get the entire workload of Google Workspace carried on securely stored on StorX with their passkey encryptions.
Okay. When you look to the future of the next 6 months to 1 year for StorX, what types of solutions should the end users be looking for? What types do you feel will be developed, and which ones will be released over the next 6 months?
We will have a lot of backup integrations that is going to be done. We will be working with a lot of third-party tools, a lot of integration tools. So very soon you'll be able to back up the data from Google, Office 365, HubSpot, such kind of tools. You can easily back up and securely store into StorX with your own passkey. No matter what happens to your data in the source type, you still get your data secured and backed up in this kind of storage. So that will ensure that you have one duplicate copy of all your interesting and important emails, documents, everything stored on StorX.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so to close out the interview today, let's talk about DePIN versus big tech. How will DePIN solutions such as StorX compete with the big tech cloud infrastructures of the past? What do you think will be the biggest transformation that will bring users to a Web3 solution in the future?
So DePIN is slowly being accepted by the users and the business worldwide. We see a lot of interesting use cases which are coming up in DePIN perspective. So if you see there are projects which are like storing data, there are projects which are sharing bandwidth, there are projects which are sharing mobile networks. So it's really a very interesting space, and we're going to see a lot of interesting developments in coming up years. And we see that this are going to be viable options compared to all the big techs. It's something that the big techs will really have to redraw the tables and think something really important, because they can't ignore this. With the kind of development that is happening, they're kind of creating disruption around the whole mindset of people, we had a certain mindset of people that only big tech companies can do certain things, but I think DePIN is really challenging this in a very real way. And the best part is even everybody can participate and gain out of it. So you can be a part of a DePIN network, and you can be a part of the next growth story that's going to happen. And this is really going to be the big thing that people will see over the coming period of time. So you can be the part of next growth of Amazon. You can be a part of next growth of any mobile service provider, any provider, any internet bandwidth providers. Those would be interesting things to look at. And people and businesses have really started adopting this in a small way though. But I think this is going to be really big in this coming years.
That's the thing. When you think about Google and Amazon and how big these companies are, and they've built out their infrastructure and cloud solutions using their own servers, and that all stays in-house. So while these multi-billion-dollar companies are earning large revenues for their storage solutions, that's staying in-house to where they could keep building out the infrastructure, but it's all centralized. So even though they have large server farms, it's a centralized server farm versus a decentralized network where the community can participate and be a part of that overall data center.
They can be a part of the growth story as well as grow along with that. And it's really big. It democratizing the DePIN infrastructure is something that would be so huge that even these big tech companies would find it difficult to catch up with. And we feel there will be many interesting use cases that will come up, something that we've even thought for so many years. It's all possible because of the growth of blockchain technology, because of the growth of adoption of the blockchain technology and distributed ledger technology. So that I feel that it's really something that would be really very great thing to look out for.
Okay, great. Well, this has been StorX Network. DePIN versus Big Tech with Murphy John. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you.
The Crypto News Podcast with your host, Joshua Roomsberg. Follow and subscribe today.